What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Create Above and Beyond, and today we're going to be automating the production of circuits and processors. Honestly, you guys have no idea how long I've been waiting to say that. I have been wanting to set up an ME system for such a long time now, and last episode we finally took the first very small step to being able to do that with this setup right here, which allowed us to complete Chapter 4, or at least the main quest in Chapter 4, which you can see right here. This final quest was making the ME controller. Now, obviously, you need a lot more to make a good ME system, and that's why we need to do these two quests over here, because we need to make the circuits and then turn those circuits into processors so that we can craft a lot of the other stuff that we need to attach to the ME controller to make our system useful. So if we take a look right here at the engineering processor and look at the uses for this, all these things right here are different applied energistics 2 things, a lot of which are going to be used in an ME system. Now, I'm not going to use all of these. I'm sure most people wouldn't even touch some of these, but we're going to need those and then some other stuff too later down the line to make the very fancy ME system that I want to do. So today we're going to be setting this up right over here. It is going to be an extremely compact, fully automated setup, which will produce all 3 types of circuits and then convert all 3 types of those circuits into their respective processors. So the first thing we need to set up for this system is going to be the base that everything is built upon. And that's going to be a very basic 3 wide by 4 long belt system. So I'm just going to clear out an area right here that we can place that down in. And it doesn't necessarily need to be in the ground, but I think it's going to look better that way. So we're just going to run shafts along one side and along the other. And then we're just going to connect these with belts like so. And there we go. So this is pretty much what everything is going to go on top of and feed into, because if we take a look at the quest right here to make the processors, we can look at any of these because they all pretty much have the same sequenced assembly, which is going to be using a deployer, using a spout, and then using a press. And that's all going to happen on each one of these belts right here. So we can grab out our deployers, we can grab out our presses, and we can grab out our spouts and simply put them down. So let me see if I can properly orient these. So just like that, with the presses at the very end over here, and then our spouts right here, and then our deployers. I think these might be a bit more of a pain to orient. Nope, they're actually working out perfectly. So we do want them all connecting with rotational power. That'll make our lives way easier. And thankfully, we can do that with both the press and the deployer. Unfortunately, the spouts are not going to connect at all. So we're still going to have to transport the fluid across the top here eventually. But I hope I have a little bit of an easier way to do that in today's episode than I normally do. So right now we have the assembly itself set up to go, but we don't have anything going in here. So we're going to go step by step through what we need. The first thing that might surprise you is the sequenced assembly doesn't actually feed in the circuit, it feeds in printed silicon. So we made that last episode, and I'm not going to have it made again over in this setup. I'm actually going to split it from the setup that we have over there making it for our, was it calculation mechanisms, I think? But I'll worry about that off camera. For our purpose today in this episode, we are simply going to grab out our brass tunnels, and we're going to put one down on this side of each of these belt systems. And I'm sure you guys know what I'm doing here if you've watched literally any of my episodes before. But we are going to put this to forced round robin. Now I'm going to do this one specifically on forced round robin, not regular round robin, because in this system, when we start sort of transporting stuff through here, especially the destabilized redstone in these spouts, it's going to not distribute evenly. And so I want to make sure that we are getting an even amount of each of these out on this end, and it's not based on which one of these is getting way more destabilized redstone, depending on how the machine chooses to distribute it. So if we put this on forced round robin, it's only going to allow one to go to each one after it's gone to the prior one that it was meant to go to. Now that we have this should distribute the printed silicon once we put it in here. And so all we're going to do is grab out a hopper. We're going to put that into, it could be pretty much on either side of this. It doesn't really matter. So I guess we can just put it over here. And then we're going to grab out a drawer for the time being, and we can put it down right up here. And then I'm actually going to grab out a key to lock this drawer. And this will be where we put our printed silicon. So if I were to throw some of this in there right now, it would start putting out, and we would have it sitting right now in each one of these. You can see they're ready to distribute one in each. but because the belt system isn't going, it's not actually taking it anywhere. But now that's good to go. We're going to have the printed silicon coming into this system, and the input is taken care of. That's unfortunately the easiest part of all this, so there's still a lot of other stuff to do, and really the next step is going to be each of the 3 different types of circuits. And so to make these, if we take a look, the recipes are pretty much all the same for these, except they're going to require different presses for each one. So you're going to have the calculation press, the engineering press, and the logic press, I think. And then you're going to have different metals. So you're going to have copper, you're going to have diamond, which really isn't a metal, and then you're going to have gold. So the way we are going to deal with this is by using, not the blast chiller, we are going to use a casting table. Now, this was brought to my attention by one of you guys in the comments, but the casting table uses 1 ingot, which is 144 millibuckets. If you didn't know, you can hold shift and see the exact millibuckets. But if we take a look at the blast chiller, it uses 1,000 millibuckets. It uses so much more to do the same operation in a blast chiller, and you actually only get out 1 of these. I have no idea why, but that's the case. So we're not going to go the blast chiller route. We are going to go the casting table route, and I think I have a solution that should make this a bit easier. So for this portion of the setup, we're going to grab out some drawers, and we're going to put down 3 drawers right here directly behind these brass tunnels. And because the brass tunnels don't actually pull into them, they need to have an input. They won't take anything from these drawers, which is really nice. And then we can actually just come and lock each of these. And if we wanted to right now, we could determine what's going to go where. So we would need to grab out pretty much a stack of diamond. And do I have the inventory room right now? We could ditch some of this stuff. So we need a stack of diamond. We'll need a stack of copper and a stack of gold. And I'm thinking we'll do copper over here, gold over here, and diamond over here. So these are all locked, and it'll just be nice so that we can kind of keep track of what's going where. But now that we have that, we can take some magma crucibles and put them down on top of each of these right here. And then each of these is going to need a modular reconfiguration augment. Go figure. Big surprise, right? I use those on pretty much every thermal series machine now. I think I started with like 32 of these a couple episodes ago. Now we're down to single digits, and so I'm burning through them. But with these, we'll be able to automate the input and output of each of these crucibles. And then we're quickly going to put down a seared casting table on top of each of these. Now we're going to come in and we are going to configure them to have an input on the bottom and auto input, and it'll pull them up. And then we are going to have them output and auto output out the top. And we're going to do that same thing for each of these. So input in the bottom, output out the top. And again, auto input on both, input in the bottom, output out the top. Now, this is something I think a lot of people overlook, and they don't realize you can do this, which is incredibly frustrating. But you can just have the fluid coming right from the magma crucible and output out this face right here into the casting table, which seems so weird. That seems like it should not work. It looks like it shouldn't work. I mean, look at it. It's right there. That's where it's supposed to be coming out. And it's going into this casting table, but it does work. So we are just going with it. We're not going to question it. We are just going with it. We're going to enjoy it. And so we need to grab out our 3 different kinds of presses here, and we need to make sure that they're going in the correct ones. So I need to quickly go and look at which is which. So the calculation is going to be the copper, the logic is the gold, and the engineering is the diamond. So the calculation is the copper, C and C, haha, super easy way to remember that. The engineering is the diamond, and the logic is the gold. So that should be correct. You got to make sure that they line up, otherwise it's not going to work. But now these should be making the circuits right up here in these casting tables, and it should be only using 144 millibuckets. It won't use any power to make them, unlike with the blast chiller, and it'll save us like 8 times or 7 times or whatever the amount of resources we would need if we did it in a blast chiller. Now, the only thing is we got to get them from over here into these deployers so that they can be deployed onto the printed silicon. And the way that we're going to do this is, again, go figure, with some pretty pipe brass item pipes. And so we are going to put these down on each one of these casting tables right here. And then we're just going to hop up here and have them going into each deployer. And I'm just going to quickly grab out our pipe wrench, and I'm going to kind of slice these up in between them so they're not all connected. And now we are only going to have them going from the casting table into the appropriate deployer. And this is something that always annoys me about pretty pipes. I feel like I've talked about this before, but for some reason, you need to have at least 2 pipes between stuff so that you can set one to be the pulling. For some reason, if you have like the casting table here and the deployer here, and there's only 1 pipe in between, if you put this to extract, it wouldn't even pull from the casting table. Even if it couldn't pull from the other side of it, it still wouldn't pull anything. It's super weird. So that's my one grievance with the pretty pipes. And it's just kind of a little bit of an annoyance, but we're going to grab out extraction modules and we're going to put 1 on each of these. And we don't even need to set a filter because they're not going to ever pull out the press that we have in there, because the Tinker's construct tables are actually pretty smart and won't let it get pulled out. So now we've got the items coming from the casting tables into the deployers. Step 1 is done of this. And now we need to worry about step 2, and that's making the destabilized redstone. This is really the last thing that needs to be input into this system to get it to work. And if we take a look at making destabilized redstone, I know you guys might be having PTSD flashbacks to this right here, which we used in chapter 2 when we didn't have all these other things that we could use, especially the magma crucible. We're not going to use volatile sky solution and charged Sturgis quartz crystals to make this. No, we are just going to melt down redstone. I know, it's so much simpler. It's so much nicer. Now, we could also do this in other things, but I'm not going to do it with that. I don't think there's any benefit to it. Magma crucible is way easier to deal with. So the way we're going to do this is hopping right up here, and we're going to grab out our magma crucible and then 2 fluid cells. Now, it does not matter where you put down the magma crucible in this setup. I'm just going to throw this thing down right over here, and then a fluid cell and another fluid cell. Now, I did not even know these things existed. My main complaint, and I had this with the setup over there, was you're always having to use create pipes for transporting fluids. I don't know of any other pipe that's actually in this pack for transporting fluids, but you guys let me know that if you're transporting at a very short distance, you could just use adjacent fluid cells that have the ability without any augment to set inputs and outputs. So if we look in here, we're basically going to want this to be outputting out the bottom. It needs to be the orange, so auto output out the bottom, and then input in the right side, and it can be auto input. Then this over here is going to be inputting on the right side, and it's going to be both outputting out the bottom and outputting out the right or the left side. And then over here, we're going to have to slap down a modular reconfiguration augment, and we are going to have this output out the left side and output out the bottom. And then we're going to need to input, and it doesn't really matter where you input stuff from, but we're going to be using another drawer, and this is what we're going to fill with redstone. Now, I might need to rotate this because can we rotate it with the create wrench? We can. You know what? Let's rotate it so the front face is over there, and then we kind of need to reconfigure the sides a bit here to, I believe the back should be output then, and this should be input. Yes, there we go. So we can put an oak drawer right here, and then we're going to grab out our key again. We're going to lock this, and we are going to go and grab some redstone. So this we can grab just like a stack or 2 for now. I could also make these into blocks if I wanted to. It'll be able to process those too. And now you can see it pulls them in there, and once it has power, it'll start taking these and making them into destabilized redstone. So a huge thing is really just going to be supplying power to all of this. And it's occurring to me right now that actually we don't want this drawer on the same side that we have this magma crucible. So I think I'm going to move this drawer over to the other side. No, maybe I'll keep it here, and I'm going to quickly move this magma crucible over to the other side. Okay, so I just quickly moved it over here. I'm hoping this will make sense in a minute, and I'm also hoping the power can in fact go in the front of this, but we're going to grab out our Invar flux ducts, and we're going to run the power to these magma crucibles right down here, and then we got to get it up to this magma crucible up here, and I don't really think there's any good way to do this other than just like that, which really isn't all that great looking, but getting it over here is still a pain. It might have been easier to honestly just use some create pipes and get this from over here up there using those. I don't really know. But either way, we've got power going to this, and we've got the redstone being pulled in there. And I think I probably have some redstone, in my inventory that needs to go in there. And it looks like I grabbed an extra stack of diamonds apparently that needs to go into here. Whoopsie. And we can drop the rest of our printed silicon in here, just clearing up my inventory and the bags. And there we go. So now we have power eventually going to all of the different thermal series machines that we needed to. The thing is, we actually need to generate some power. So we're going to be using, again, I keep saying this, go figure, numismatic dynamos, my favorite way to power this stuff. And so we're going to put down an extra flux duct there, and then we are going to, if I could appropriately place them down, numismatic dynamos into each one of these. We can see right here the arrows have them properly set to inputting. And then we are going to grab out, at least for these, some reinforced integral components. I might need to further upgrade these too if I decide to speed up the rest of this process. But then we can just come in here if I grab out some gold coins. I like to use gold coins for these simply because they last a really long time. So let's just evenly distribute these. What does that leave us at? Whatever, that's good enough. So we'll throw these in here and they should start giving these power. And there we go. And now these should start converting stuff. So the magma crucible, we definitely need to upgrade. This needs to go way faster. And we should start seeing this pretty much working. Other than this belt system running, this now has in its hand, each of these has the circuits in them. We can see them working over here. I think this is so cool to watch. Look at that. Oh my gosh, the colors are so nice. It's just, it's so great to watch, and knowing that it all is working flawlessly. Now these are actually pretty fast, and you can see the big issue is going to be the rate at which the casting tables are able to do the casting itself. So we don't really need to worry about speeding these up more. We don't need to put any augments in here. And if we come over here, you can see again that this one it's starting to struggle with power. So I might need to take out this for the time being and eventually put into these numismatic dynamos. Eventually these will get backed up down here and stop running and they'll fill up on power completely. But I think I might need to put, I believe it's the flux linkage amplifiers in these, which are augments that double the output of power but reduce the efficiency of the items by 10%. But either way, now we've got this. So the last step for us to do is put down some drawers over here, and then we are going to grab out our key, and we also need to grab out some andesite funnels, and we're going to lock each of these drawers just so that we can see the nice visual on the front no matter what's in there. Put down andesite funnels on the back here, as I always say, because this is a sequenced assembly. Even though these technically would pick up what's on the belt here before it gets pressed, it's going to wait to pick them up, acknowledging that it is in fact a sequenced assembly, and so it'll wait until it's finished and pressed to pick them up and put them in here. And I think that's honestly it. That should be everything that we need, other than of course giving these rotational power. And the way that we're going to deal with that real quick is going to be over on this side over here. No. Yes? No. Yes. Yes. For the 15th time, wavering back and forth, we're going to put cogwheels just like this. And thankfully for us, the direction does not matter for any of the presses. It doesn't matter for any of the deployers. The only time the rotational power direction is going to matter is for the belt system. And we are just going to come down here. And I guess really we should grab out an additional shaft, and we can put it down right here. And then we can put down cogwheel, and then all we're going to have to do here is just use water wheels to get it some rotational power. So I think it's going to use 2 water wheels for this. So I am going to go set both of those up. That should be just enough to run this at 20 RPM. No need for it to go faster. Why every time that I go to set up rotational power does a wandering trader of some sort or pillagers come into my area? It's like a tradition at this point. It's like a sick joke. Oh my gosh, guys, it's working. It looks so good. Now, you can see already what I was kind of talking about, mainly because we had to slow down this magma crucible up there. We might be able to speed it up again if these kind of have come to a halt back here. I guess it's mainly because they're out of actual stuff to make. But you can see that the way the redstone is kind of being distributed around here, this is going to make it so that we don't get an excess of some of these when we don't have as many of the others. So I guess technically right now we could come up here and put back in the reinforced integral components and see how badly this is. Okay, it's gaining power when those other ones aren't running. So we'll just have to upgrade the rest of these power generation numismatic dynamos with some upgrades to make sure they generate some more power. But it's making them. And the minute this one in the middle here, assuming this is properly set to output down, it is. I guess it's just prioritizing this one. One actually went through there. Nice. So it's working. I'm super happy with this. We can see we are getting all of these out at the end here. And I guess really all we need to do is complete these quests. And so I do need to get out each one of these, then one of each of those. So we could do that just by, we kind of got to come down here, I think, and kind of awkwardly, no, give me that dirt back. Awkwardly kind of like click on each of these like that. And like that. There we go. Okay, so these are now completed. That quest is done, so we can give these back. We just got to make sure we give them back to the correct one too. And quest complete. Nice. So we have the additional quest complete for chapter 4. And I think that should be literally everything in chapter 4. Yes, it is. Nice. I don't think there's any other additional quests in chapter 4. So there we go. We can say it is officially done and completed. That is the setup for producing these guys. I am super thrilled with how this turned out. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, be sure to give it a like and subscribe, as it does help me out a lot, and you'll never miss out on a future episode. And I will talk to you guys later.